Thanks for stopping by. I'm surviving this cruel world and I hope you are too. My first entry in my Slingshot Beginner's Diary was about finding out the best way to hold my slingshot. My next entry starts with talking about slingshot bands. You know, the stretchy part that shoots the ammo. The first store-bought slingshot I ever shot, like so many others, was called a wrist rocket. It had round latex tubes for bands. It was a bit tough to pull back, or as true slingshot enthusiasts say, draw. In fact, it was a bit of a struggle. As I learned in the course I took, there are different kinds of bands. Here is what the course instructor said.
Most of you started out with a wrist rocket with tubes. That's because wrist rockets are available at big department stores. Wrist rocket makers know their products are going to sit on a store shelf for several months, maybe even years, before someone buys it. Since latex is primarily a natural product, it's prone to break down over time. Thick tubes last longer than flat bands, so that's what they use.
To be honest, I have never seen a slingshot with flat bands before I started watching slingshot videos on YouTube. The course instructor talked about the benefits of flat bands, especially for beginners like me.
A beginning shooter got two reasons to use flat bands over tubes. They're easier to use and they're more versatile.
The course instructor then explained why flat bands are easier to use for beginners.
Depending on the band's thickness, they can be a lot easier to draw than tubes. This lets you be more accurate shooter. It also makes shooting more fun. Let's face it, it's more fun destroying a target than missing it.
He then said this about the versatility of flat bands over tubes.
With tubes, you got different thicknesses too, sure. And yeah, you can cut them to different lengths, but that's about all you can do with them. You can do all that with flat bands too, plus you can taper the shape of your flat bands. You can cut your bands any way you want them. How cool is that? But we'll talk about that stuff later.
I'm really looking forward to getting into that stuff down the road. Starting out though, I'm keeping it simple. I buy pre-made band sets to use until I discover my own preferences. The first thing I've decided is to use a thinner flat band. I find that using a thinner band makes it so much easier to draw, and I can shoot more without my muscles aching or cramping. It's more fun that way. The band sets I'm using now have a very small taper to them. I haven't gotten all the way through the course yet, but I think tapers affect ammo speed. Now all this talk about bands got me curious about tapers and stuff, so I went to YouTube. I tried making my own bands, but with very little success. My bands kept pulling apart at the pouch. But the other day, I watched 3 videos that taught me some important things. Let me share them with you. I shoot mostly TTF, or through the fork, because it seems to work better for me. Bands can be made for TTF or OTT frames, which are over the top. I saw a video by my buddy Mark at ATO. Well, we've never met, but I think of him as a buddy. He makes really helpful videos, but I digress. In his video, he tested whether TTF bands would work on an OTT frame, and they did. That's cool because now I can just learn how to make TTF bands and I'll be covered. But then Mark dropped a bombshell, well, at least for me. He showed how a loose knot at the pouch can lead to premature breakage of the band, or, as in my case, cause the band to separate from the pouch. The little light bulb went on. Tie those knots tighter. I then watched a video by Mikey Slingshots and Catapults. In his video, he gave a tip on using crystal string for bands. He said that when you wrap the string, you should alternate the side you bring it over on. First go in front of your hand and then go behind it. This helps keep those knots tight. Another mental note for my next attempt. Finally, I saw a really cool video from Taking Shots. He showed his technique for tying bands. When he got to the part where you wrap the crystal string, I was floored. He wrapped it like 12 times. I only did 4 or 5 on the bands I made. Now, when it comes to tapers, us beginners can get real confused real fast. But Taking Shots actually sorted it out for me without even trying. He was trying out a new taper for him while shooting at a can. After a couple shots, he said, "This doesn't crush cans as good as 20 to 12 does." Eureka! I knew I needed a set of 20 to 12 bands. Using my newfound knowledge, I sat down and cut myself a band set with a 20 to 12 taper, and I put them on my Slingshot. Now, whenever I make a change to my equipment, I shoot a paper plate with a target sticker in the middle. It tells me how accurate I am. I found I was shooting low and to the left. It dawned on me that I was using heavier ammo, so I had to shoot higher than normal. I also had to move right with my aiming. After a few shots getting zeroed in, I started putting a hurt on that can. So while I'm learning from the course, nothing beats listening to more experienced shooters. Guys like ATO, Chuck and Steel, Mikey Paul, Taking Shots, Tennessee Slangin', and a whole bunch more have given me so much useful information. I'm having a lot of fun learning about this stuff, and I hope you are too. And if you think I'm giving you some helpful tips, remember